Maybe. Hello and welcome to a Monday edition of the Burnham Brothers College Football Podcast, presented by Ascension Sports, Home Instead, and the Mowry Law Firm. Shane, what's happening?
Another big weekend of college football, road trip down to the swamp with my daughter Lindsay. So we're 2 for 2 now. Travel weekends.
You brought home a Bulls fan. Listen, you said that it was going to be you thought it was going to be a boring little weekend in college football. It was not a boring weekend. 2 top 15 teams go down. South Florida beats the Gators in the swamp, and then Mississippi State gets the Sun Devils on essentially a last play. It wasn't the last play of the game, but it was close to it. Saw Iowa State get past Iowa. Your boys at OU, your surprise pick in the SEC, looked really good against Michigan. UVA gave one away at NC State. Syracuse's coach was not happy with his team and ran his team after the game. We're going to get into a little bit of that. We're going to talk a little bit about the drama around Peter Schrager and Ryan Clark at ESPN. So got a lot of things to talk about. Now, if you're a Florida State fan, we're not going to get into a whole lot of Florida State today. They crucified East Texas A&M. You've got your sacrificial lamb. You got your guaranteed paid-for win, and you're moving on to an open week followed by Kent State. So we really won't know anything about the Seminoles again until they take on Virginia and then Miami. We'll talk a little bit about Virginia since that is their next big game. But Shane, you were in Gainesville. You gotta be wary of the Bulls. They have now beaten every team in the state of Florida that they have played. They have a check mark against the Gators, against the Seminoles, against the Hurricanes, against the Knights, against the Bethune-Cookman Wildcats, against FAMU. They FIU. They got it done, but they got it done in a really impressive way. They were the team that did not back down in the swamp. And what were your impressions? What was the mood? I know it was a hot late afternoon in Gainesville, but listen, we said that this was a game that people needed to keep an eye on, and now second straight week in a row, we have an SEC fan base that wants to fire their head coach, and we'll talk about that after we break down the game.
Yeah, I mean, in my opinion, the short of it was that the line of scrimmage where they should hold the advantage, they didn't. You would think South Florida's always got good skilled kids. We talked about the quarterback coming in at South Florida, so we knew what they had there. Defensively, they held the line of scrimmage. They held their own, and then did enough, to keep the game close. You hang around, belief grows. And I remember as a kid, we grew up under Coach Bowden. One of his favorite things to tell the staff was, more games are lost than are won. So all these Gator fans who are, hey, we had this penalty or that. Well, that's the game. That's playing. That's coaching. And you can go back and, lament all those things. But it doesn't change the fact that you got outplayed by a team that should never happen. I mean, it really shouldn't happen. The fact that you're calling off all these victories and it has happened, it really never should happen when you consider how well resourced one program is compared to the other. But yeah, just not surprised. We knew that you and I talked about it would be a game, and if Florida did not come in ready to play, this was very possible.
Yeah, and certainly they had a good defensive performance. Both teams did. I think it was both the teams were held under 400 yards. USF had 391, Florida 355, 128 on the ground for USF, 133 on the ground for Florida. And really, it was just lack of listen, Florida had 2 touchdowns called back because of penalty, a holding penalty, and then a pass interference penalty, I believe. But just really couldn't convert in the red zone against this what is a very good front seven and probably defense for South Florida. I was very impressed. They held up at the line of scrimmage very well. And we'd heard a lot in the preseason about Florida's offensive line being the best it's had been in years, or was going to be the best it's been in years. You keep on waiting for Lagway to have that moment. Had some good ones yesterday, last year, but Saturday was all right. I mean, listen, he completed 70% of his passes.
Did he really? It didn't feel that way. Sitting
no,
there,
it did not.
it was my first time, and maybe it was because the misses were what they were, but sitting in the stands, it felt like he missed several wide open throws, whether it was short, overthrown. So I was not real impressed. Seems like a great kid, all the stuff I've heard, but in my one viewing, he didn't make the plays to allow him to win this game.
Yeah, when I looked at the stats, I thought both quarterbacks were all right. I didn't think that either one of them was very. I think they're both got the potential to be good quarterbacks. But Brown for UCF, 23 of 30, or USF, 23 of 36, 64%. So both of them were solid, but neither made big plays. And you got to give credit to both defenses. They did what it took to win in the red zone. Although, listen, they were 5 for teams combined, 5 for 5 in the red zone, but no touchdowns. Right. I think that is the big thing. Is it was a field goal fest, and the team that played the best won, the tougher team won.
Grammatica. A Grammatica with a winning kick down there at the Bulls. How about that? Another Grammatica doing his thing.
Another Automatica Grammatica. Yeah. So listen, it was fun to watch. Obviously I was pulling for USF. But yeah, listen, it's gotten Billy in a whole lot of heat. And we said coming into the season that USF would be lucky to be 2-2 coming out of the month of September with a date at Miami next, and obviously Bethune-Cookman after that. I thought 2-2 would be good, but listen, they got a chance now to be 4-0 coming out of this stretch. We'll talk a little bit about the Miami game in our weekly previews coming up later in the week. But you were there. I guess the game kind of speaks for itself. What was the atmosphere like after the game? You were with some Gators.
I was sitting in I think a Bull Gator, type seating section. So it was interesting. Didn't have a dog in the fight. So my daughter and I were taking it all in, and you could sense the growing frustration, the boo bird starting to show up. Whether he was right or wrong to throw the ball on first down on the final series and not force USF into a timeout. Billy didn't seem to think that was a big deal, but up in the stands, it continued to be like a snowball. And then, as you know, they're driving down the field. They make the big play on their sideline on the little flare pass to the running back. And at that point, it was, they had a minute to figure it out, a minute of game clock to figure out they were going to lose. So it was interesting. A lot of hot fans and, a lot of happy Bulls. My daughter, so that's the 4th place I've taken her now in the last 2 years. She's been to Tennessee, South Carolina, Florida, and then Florida State, of course, many times. But she said, unbiased opinion, that it was the 4th best environment she's been in the last 2 years. So take it for what it's worth.
We might need to have her tested for something. I don't know. That seems out of all the places she's been, that's sport. Of course, now listen, she's gonna obviously have a hometown feel for Florida State. I don't know where she ranked Florida State on that list, but
third.
So where was South Carolina?
Second.
Well, who was first for her?
Tennessee. If you've been to a game at Tennessee, it is. It's 100,000 night game. We were there at a night game. It's like a rock concert. It's it's a special place. It is. The river.
The last time I was there was at GA at South Carolina. We were getting our teeth kicked in, so it wasn't a lot of fun. I was watching Jamal Lewis running up and down the sideline. So
depends on what capacity you're there as.
Yeah. There was nothing fun about that. I think it was 31-7. We lost that game. All right, so listen. Hats off to USF.
The hottest name in coaching right now. The hottest team. I mean, if you're Alex Golesh, right, you have really, unless you stub your toe the rest of the way, you have the ability to be the hottest name in the cycle, along with a guy like Summerall or, whoever these next group of 5 wave of head coaches are. So I think he wrote his ticket out of Tampa, and then playing with house money this week versus Miami.
Yeah, listen, we're going to hear his name every week the rest of the college football season as a guy that will end up at a Power 4 school next year. You look at their schedule, Miami this week at number 5, Miami right now, a 17.5-point favorite. Again, I think that that's house. You go ahead and take the Bulls and the points. I don't think there's any way Miami beats them by 18 points. This team's playing way too good right now. Then the Bulls have South Carolina State, Charlotte team they'll be considerably better than, a North Texas team they'll be considerably better than, FAU. Then they get Memphis in late October, followed by UTSA, who are the top 2 teams in that conference coming into this season, at least media poll wise. Then you get Navy, which is always a interesting game. I don't care who you are when you play Navy and Army. It's always interesting, as Kansas State found out this weekend. UAB and Rice. So listen, Shane, outside of Miami, they have a legit shot to run the table at USF, and it's clearly short of a letdown, will be a part of the college football playoff conversation as we get into late October, early November.
Doing a great job, and where they started from, having to rebuild that after Jeff and those guys had a tough time. So it's really impressive to watch what he's done, and he's on his way. Yeah,
and I don't think all due respect to Jeff Scott and the guys that were with him during his tenure with the program, but Alex did have a problem on his hands when he took over that program. It was not in a good spot, and obviously, as we've seen, he's in year 3. So what is this? It's about his 26th game at USF, 26, 27, somewhere in there, and he looks like he's got him heading the right direction. And it reminds me of Brad Lawing telling me when I was sitting at the Swamp for a camp one summer, Pat, if you can't turn it around in 3 years in the state of Florida, you can't turn it around. He was talking about the FSUs, the Floridas, the Miamis, the USFs and UCFs of the world, that the players are here. You just got to pick the right ones, get them into your program, and get them going. So USF, listen, if you're basing everything off this year's resume, they are going to be one of the top 2 or 3 ranked teams in the country. Now, they came in at 18 in the I don't know if it was the coaches poll, the writers poll, but right now, if you were sitting here doing a 2025 resume based only poll like our buddy Danny Cannell does, he's got a number 1. It's hard to argue that based off their 2025 resume. But yeah, this creates a whole nother bag of issues for South Florida. And how are they going to hang on to Golesh if they keep this up? Because there's going to be some jobs open, and one of those jobs that might be open, maybe the one in the town that he just left. Again, second week in a row, an SEC coach is getting fired after a loss. We'll see how that works out in Tuscaloosa and in Gainesville. But certainly a lot of people, both fans that are close to the program and obviously some of the national pundits are calling for change in Florida. We'll see what happens. But I want to listen to a couple of things that were said. One by Josh Pate and then one by Paul Feinbaum. So let's check out what these guys had to say following the loss, Shane. And I want to get your thoughts. Well, I guess you call it a USF win. We're not going to call it a Florida loss. We're call it a USF win. Let's listen to what Josh Pate had to say about the Florida program after their loss to USF.
I'm really conflicted on Billy Napier because there's a lot I love about him. I love his mentality. I love his temperament. I fully believe in his personal philosophy on a program and how to build it and how to run it. But the problem there is you can do all of those things right. And all you're doing there is presenting yourself an opportunity to win games because you've done those things the right way. But when you have the opportunity to win the games, you can't fumble things like play calling. You can't fumble clock management. You can't fumble in-game decisions. If you do those things, then you completely negate all the good work you did to present yourself the opportunity to win. That's where the conflict is for me, because I see a lot of the characteristics exhibited down there that I believe in. Because there's a lot that Florida does, that Billy does, that's the same thing that other successful coaches do. The difference is, and maybe this is the disconnect, The best of the best do what it takes to present the opportunities to win games in the fall. Then they do what it takes to win the games. They're only fulfilling half of that equation, and that's not good enough.
Well, listen, if you when you look at what Josh is saying, and he said some things, he didn't, some of it was just talking in circles, right?
Yes.
But
Said a lot to say nothing. Yeah.
yeah, and there's a lot of guys that are good at that, and maybe we're a couple of them. But listen, I think what he's saying is, listen, he's been trained by Nick Saban. He comes from that tree. He's seen the way a program should be run in a day in and day out basis. But at the end of the day, he's not Nick Saban. He doesn't have the same assistants on that staff. It's different, right? I mean, there's examples of that all over the place.
I can't think of many programs I've been a part of as a coach, or my friends have been a part of, that didn't try to do things the right way. The way he's talking, that are there some idiots out there who don't know how to run a program? Sure, but that's not what it comes down to. Most times, it comes down to those great players you have versus the other 11 guys you're playing against.
Right.
So all those things, at the end of the day, you got to make plays, and it's usually who has the better players. In last Saturday's case, that wasn't, which makes it appalling for Gator fans. But yeah, all the plans, the best laid plans until you get punched in the face, right? Everybody's got a plan until you get punched in the face. So, end of the day, just win, baby. Al Davis. The process is important. There's no doubt. But I don't know that Billy has any, patent on the process that not every other coach, that whether it was Dan Mullen or Will Muschamp or whoever I'm missing, McElwain in the interim between now and Urban, have all probably been pretty detailed, had a pretty good plan. And you got to win.
Well, listen, people have been dancing on his grave. This same thing happened last year. They got off to a kind of a rocky start. Schedule was going to be too hard. They weren't going to be able to overcome it. He was fired. Was going to get fired. That didn't happen. Let's look and see what Paul Feinbaum has to say after week 2 of Florida's football season.
Well, he completely blew it. This is the same problems we've been seeing from Napier in terms of game management from the beginning. And at this point, there's no reason for optimism. I'm sorry. We went through that last year. It was a roller coaster. Terrible at the beginning, great at the end. And you just can't keep playing with fans' emotions. You have to take control of your program, and he clearly has not. So I think the end is near for Billy Napier. I'm not suggesting anything. I don't have any more control over that program than my dog sitting here next to me. But ultimately, it's hard to come back from this, and the only way is to undo the damage. And the problem for Napier is mathematically. He only had so much room for error anyway with the toughest schedule in the SEC, and now he's completely thrown a game away. When you look at this next 4 or 5 games, even if you win one of those, then you are back to square one, and the odds of Billy Napier winning all 4 of these games is pretty close to.
Well, first of all, I'm not sure that Billy Napier has to win all 4 of the games. This is the same kind of dribble we heard last year after Florida got off to a slow start. But you look at their schedule, the next 4 games, brand name wise, daunting. LSU, Miami, Texas, at Texas A&M. So you're at LSU, you're at Miami, get Texas at home, at Texas A&M. But none of these teams looked unbeatable, Shane. I watched LSU play some the other night against La Tech. They kept on tripping over themselves. Very uninspired effort. This is I think the shelf life has a chance. Now, listen, if they lose next week, the roar's only going to get louder. But if they win this game against LSU this week, Shane, all this goes away. I mean, I think there's a lot of overreaction to this. I understand why people are frustrated. You said it. You should not lose to USF, but people have been saying that about USF for 20 years. It's just one of those programs that, when they're playing well, can beat you. And listen, as you said last week, every little brother wants to beat his big brother. And whether it's 1-on-1, ping pong, it doesn't matter. And the same thing's in a football game. So LSU, Miami, Texas A&M, daunting schedule. I think that these games, I don't think there's a game that's not winnable out of these 4. Then you got Mississippi State, Georgia, Kentucky, Ole Miss, Tennessee, Florida State. So it's not an easy schedule, and I guess if you're going to play it out the way teams are ranked now, which you got LSU number 3, Texas will probably end up being ranked before they end up out there. I'm just not convinced that it's we've reached critical mass at Florida like most people are saying.
I guess my question always is if Florida holds on, gets a stop, and they win the game, by a point, there's still going to be this uproar temporarily. But are you upset with the process to the point that Josh paid? If you're an administrator or a booster there, what is the issue? Is it the process? Is it something more glaring? Is it something you're doing philosophically that's not holding up? But I'm like you, give it time. It's early in the season. You and I grew up around this program where they had a lot of Septembers that they stubbed their toe and found their way. But yeah, it sucks to give away when you have a superior roster, and that's what they're saying. That's a game you should win. But all those same people who are bagging on him now, I'd love to see what Paul Feinbaum was saying, back on last November, whatever, when they won their game and they were singing his praises. So these guys, they ride the roller coaster of the media. And what's great about coaching, you don't have time to involve yourself in that. You just got to hope your players are insulated enough into what we're doing that it can't get to them.
Yeah, listen, this loss is going to look a lot different if South Florida ends up going 11-1, 10-2 in the college football playoff, in the American Conference Championship game, highly ranked. This loss for Florida will look a lot different 10 weeks from now. And listen, again, everyone was dancing on Billy Napier's grave. Same time last year. They were saying it before the season started. They've got good football players. Obviously, there's some game management issues they got to work out. They got to get some more explosive plays out of the offense. And more than anything, you got to get into the end zone because you're not going to win a lot of these games in modern college football kicking field goals. I mean, people are going to should find ways into the end zone with the way the rules are set up for offenses. But listen, hats off to USF. A great win for the program. I can't remember. I guess you'd have to go back to probably Notre Dame as far as big wins. I think that was the last huge upset South Florida's had against a national brand, and it's certainly going to make them a lot of eyeballs will be on the Bulls this Saturday as they go to Miami. We'll talk a little bit about that later. I do want to get your thoughts on a couple of teams that you're high on. You had OU Oklahoma as your surprise team in the SEC, and they got after the Wolverines pretty good on Saturday night in Norman. I don't know what Bud Elliott's issues are with that is the guy that ended up having an issue with Natier's first game when it was 30-37. I hope he was more impressed after his performance in their 24-13 win over Big Blue. But what are your thoughts on they look to be for real. They looked really good on defense. The offensive line was spectacular, and that kid is he's something else. He might not one of the
Yeah, I thought he was everything we thought he was going to be, right? Watching the first week, just him and the DOC, they're locking step together. They're playing fast, playing efficient. And I thought the line of scrimmage, again, you're talking about a Michigan program coming off a natty 2 years ago, all kind of draft picks across that line of scrimmage. And I thought they got dominated up front, even though the score didn't reflect it. I think, again, that's where Oklahoma's special. And then Brent, those defenses he has, go back to Clemson, even last year, that Oklahoma team last year, it was not because of their defense. So you got Napier, he's special. And again, belief, it's kind of like Castellanos here in Tallahassee. These kids, the more they play with Napier, they haven't been around him all that long, it just snowballs. And, when you think you're special at that position, man, it just changes your team.
Well, I watched I watched almost every snap of that game. I did not watch much of their first game, just highlights. But yeah, he looks like he is the real deal. It looks like Oklahoma is one of the teams that is back. And listen, they've got a tough schedule. There's no doubt about that. They've got a schedule that is every bit as daunting as Florida's. But as you said, the defense under this guy has always been really, really good. And it seems like he kind of felt like he had a little bit more fought with confidence this offseason. And here's what he had to say after the win against Michigan.
Well, Coach, it feels a little early in the season for a statement win, but you're over here chest bumping guys, so excited. How do you describe what this win is?
Yeah, I mean, you got to celebrate winning. I mean, these guys laid it on the line. And there's a lot of guys been through a lot of pain, and a guy that's been through, or a team that's been through a lot of pain, he don't walk the same. And so these guys are incredibly hungry. They're driven. They love each other. Really cool to see them, just the resolve and the team, the belief. Michigan, again, is a great program, very prideful. They're very comfortable in these kind of games. And I just love the toughness that these guys represented for 60 minutes.
You showed toughness on that last drive to eat up the clock. You talked about the offensive line at halftime. How do you describe the way you put a physical stamp on this game?
Yeah, look, Michigan's got one of the best defenses in the last 10 years. They've been in a very, very small group of people and very rare air. And so they've got a great roster. Our guys, man, they battled their butts off. What a night. Offense, man, they really controlled a good part of the game. And we made some mistakes. A good team's going to put us in a position like that. Some of the special team errors and gave up the big play, the big run coming out the gate. But these guys continue to just battle and never lost faith. And so there it is, man. This is a really cool moment. But our destination, our goal wasn't to be 2-0. It's to be 2-0 after tonight. But our destination, man, we got our eyes set on something bigger. Obviously, we're trying to go 1-0 next week, going to Philadelphia to play Temple.
Thank you so much, Coach.
All right, appreciate it, Boomer.
Yeah, Shane, we talked about a 3-1, 4-0 start being critical because of how this schedule plays out for him moving forward. That was our preseason take anyway. So he's at 2-0. As he mentioned, they're at Temple. Then they get Auburn at home, then Kent State at home. So this is a program that has a legitimate chance to be 5-0 heading into a Texas game that right now they would be the favorite in. Then they get to South Carolina, at Ole Miss at home, at Tennessee, at Alabama, Mizzou, and LSU. So this certainly looks like a team that going into at least late October is going to be a discussion in the SEC. And obviously that Texas, South Carolina, Mississippi, Tennessee, Alabama, Missouri, LSU, that last 6 games, anything could happen there. But listen, they're going to go into the back half of this season and into the heart of their SEC schedule, which they finished the last 6 games of their season with an SEC game. I'm sorry, that may be seven SEC games in a row to finish out the schedule. They're gonna have a target on their back now. They're not going to sneak up on anybody with Napier, but certainly looks like Brent Venables has got this team headed in the right direction.
His guys, they play so hard. I think that's what sticks out to me over the years, and even the game the other night. They play so hard on defense, and if you can get those guys fever pitch every Saturday, you got a chance, right? Just being ready to play, and he seems to have a way to do that over the years. No matter where he's been, his guys are ready when the ball's kicked off.
Yeah. Well, that was a fun game to watch, and they did get after Michigan pretty good, and it was a competitive game for 4 quarters. Another game that was competitive for 4 quarters and was really just if you like defensive football, you like teams that are going to run the ball. The Iowa State game was entertaining. It was tight throughout the contest. Iowa State took an early lead. Iowa methodically came back at the end of the game. It was a long field goal by the guy you were talking about last week to win it in regulation.
Unbelievable.
16-13, but Iowa under 220 yards of total offense. Iowa State 238 yards of offense. If you like defensive football, this was a fun football game to watch it, and I enjoyed it. Iowa State's defense is going to give people trouble all year. And listen, as tight as contested as that ball game was, and as much as those offense struggled, in particular, you did not see Rocco Beck get frustrated. They kept about their business. They did not alter their game plan. And at the end of the day, this is a team that made just enough plays to get out of there with a victory in what is the biggest game typically on their schedule every year. But, what were your thoughts on that game? Does it kind of play out how you expected? And how does it change how you think about Iowa State moving forward?
I think that those are the games that Iowa has always been comfortable. Iowa is always in that game just because the way they play on offense, they give you a chance to be in a 14-10 or a 24-21 type game. So as long as Kirk's been there, Iowa, that's just how they're going to do it and be very comfortable. What's happened, I think we mentioned last week, I feel like what Matt's done, they're just going to wait for you to make a mistake, and they're going to be like a boa constrictor, and they're going to, every time you make a mistake, they get a little bit tighter around you until you can't breathe. And he's been able to do that. And the kids believe in that system now, just like they do at Iowa. But them being good on defense with what I think about Rocco, and we knew they had to get better after last year on defense. But Haycock's done a great job there over the years with that defense. So physical, they took the ball away. I think that spells trouble for everybody else in the Big 12 if they're playing good defense. And again, I think Ames is a tough place to go. And the later in the year it gets, the harder that place is to go. And I know people may not realize that, but that's a home field advantage there.
I did not realize that it's either the second or third largest stadium in the Big 12 now.
It is. And they love ball. That they're ready. It's packed out. It's like South Carolina over the years. They just love their football.
Yeah, it was a fun atmosphere and a big win for the Cyclones, and they head to Arkansas State. That is a strange anomaly on their schedule. They're at Arkansas State this weekend. Have a week off to recover after that. Then they host Arizona, at Cincinnati, at Colorado, BYU, before hosting Arizona State in early November at home. When they get to the harder part of their schedule, based on what we've seen the first couple of weeks of the season, when they get Arizona State at TCU, Kansas at home. Kansas played an interesting game against Missouri this past weekend, then at Oklahoma State to win or to finish the season. So it looks like they'll be favorites at Arizona, Cincinnati, Colorado, and BYU. Then we'll see what Arizona State, TCU, and Kansas look like when we get there. That could be more 50-50 or even underdog games, seeing how the season plays out. But yeah,
and not for anything, Kyle Cornett, how do you say his last name? The kicker, right? And he's a weapon. I mean, that's 54 to win the game. Last year, he beat him with a 50-plus yarder. The week before, he had the 63-yarder. At some point, that's going to win a game for you, right? I mean, just that is a weapon. And if you're playing good defense like they are, you can start to separate yourself that way. So that's something people don't think about, but he's a weapon.
Yeah. Well, speaking of weapons, we thought that the cowbells might be a weapon for Mississippi State Bulldogs heading into this season. Kenny Dillingham had his trainers and managers ringing those cowbells at practice all week, and I think they got more cowbell than they reckoned for over at Arizona State, as Jeff Lebby has a signature win in his, I believe, 13th game as the head coach at Mississippi State, or 14th. I think they played last week, a season opener. So second game, 2-0, beats Mississippi State. Huge win. I want to get your thoughts on a couple things. I know this was more of an upset for you than it was for me. I thought that they had a chance playing at home. They did look like a better team last week. Obviously, Arizona State lost some key players off their team from last year, including Cam Scatterby, who now plays for the Giants. But listen, it was a 17-0 game, 17-3 game at halftime. Mississippi State raced out to a lead. Arizona State got a field goal on the last possession of the first half to make it 17-13. Then slowly made a game out of it, methodically drove the ball downfield for what they thought was a last possession touchdown to win the game. That's not our field goal to win the game. And they gave the ball back to Mississippi State with a little under 2 minutes to go. It might have been 2 minutes, but they were certainly in 2-minute offense. Had a 3rd and 9 situation. I think they were actually playing for a field goal, Shane. It looked like maybe Arizona State was trying to defend them setting up for a field goal as opposed to trying to get in the end zone. But here is the play that turned the tide in that ball game.
Ferry warming up on the sideline. 2 plays to get 9 yards to keep the game going. Pressure was picked up. Chapin, wide open, caught across the middle. Thompson, touchdown.
All right, so it would be fun. Or since people are watching and listening, we're not going to make.
I can explain it to you. So basically, they line up in a 6-up look, and they're covering the 4 eligibles. on defense, and they have a center field safety. All right, and on the snap, the guy defending the number 3 receiver comes off the edge to make it a 7-man pressure. So, in essence, I think you're right. They were trying to play really aggressive defense. They were showing a 7-man pressure. They tried to drop a couple guys out late underneath, but at the very end of the day, when you bring 7, you can drop guys out underneath, but you can imagine there's still 4 eligibles out on the route. So they played a no top coverage, right? So, and like you said, Jeff, I think whether it was just a lucky call or probably more accurate, that dude's pretty damn good on offense.
Yeah.
You know, played opposite the situation. Instead of playing for the field goal, he took the shot, and great call. And and they picked up, protected it as well, right? So when you have that, and they were able to sort it out, so good job picking it up. But yeah, that was a dagger and a huge win for him. Just for the belief in the program. We keep talking about that when you're trying to build a program, for the fan base, for all the pressure that he was under, and then the quarterback. I mean, that quarterback's a really good player. Got hurt last year, and that was part of their season. Part of it was the talent, but the quarterback's playing well, and people will realize if you give Jeff time, like Hype, like Alex, the tempo, the way they run the football, and then the vertical shots, they're a bear to defend, man. They're tough. So great win for Jeff. Happy for those guys.
Yeah. I was surprised that you wouldn't have at least a deep safety to protect from getting beat on the one thing that you could not happen. I mean, if you get a field goal, great. You go to overtime, you still haven't lost the ball game. It kind of reminds me, to be honest with you, I wondered if he had, if Kenny Dillingham had called Adam Fuller for advice on how to play end of game coverage. It reminded me of the Jacksonville State game, similar route. Well, it wasn't called country route. It was more of just a go route against Jack. But anyway,
Yeah.
interesting call to me in that situation. I do not know why you would not have safety help in that situation. At least keep everything in front of you, right? Keep everything in front of you. It keeps the game in front of you. You let somebody behind you, the game's over.
To me, if I'm Kenny, I'm going to walk in there and tell him yesterday, hey, if we're going to show 7 and play 0, bring 7, right? And don't bring them from depth. Walk them up. Let's show 7 up. Let's put 4 guys across and know that the ball's coming out right now, that they can't pick it up. They were trying to come from depth. And if you're going to bring 7 or play 0 coverage and I'd have the guys walked up, I wouldn't have a whole lot of disguise, because like you said, there's a lot of risk and not enough reward if you can't pressure the quarterback in 0 coverage.
They did not get rewarded at all. And here's what Kenny Dillingham, who continues to impress me, had to say after this. And I thought it was for a coach, I thought it was actually kind of pragmatic, would be the word I would use.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I thought our guys responded great in this football game. We're one play away from this press conference being an unbelievable comeback. And that's football, though, right? And that's what I say all the time, is it's about the moments in the game, and it's about winning the close games. And like I said, we're one play away from this from this being a completely different narrative. And I think to the guys, it's not letting the result create an emotional response to how we're going to move forward. At the end of the day, you play the football game or you play the football game. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. We have to take what we did good and how we played and how we responded, a 21-point run, and we have to build off that, not the one play at the end of the game. Yeah, it's going to affect our win-loss column, but it can't affect our future games. And I think sometimes you have emotional losses like this and things can roller coaster. Like I told the guys, we gotta have a good football team. We played really well there in the second half. We got to build off that, and we got to go back and respond. We got 10 more weeks out of us.
Yeah, you got to build like that and not play an inappropriate coverage against it's bad situational football.
No, very, very pragmatic. You're right. Very good approach. That's what you should be telling the kids. Also, and this is not a shot at Kenny, that's coaching at Arizona State, where that loss, there's an aw shucks maybe. That loss doesn't play the same, right? If you're out of blue blood. So some of it is
if you're Florida.
I mean, so you can kind of, you can go in there and shrug it off. And I think what he's saying is exactly right. It's the right message. Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. There's some good that came of this. Nobody wins every game. All those things. Just don't ride, all those things you want to say to your team. He's saying just when he's speaking honestly, but I love it. He's being honest with the media. But again, I think too, it's the perspective where he's coaching at right now, where that you might not say that depending on the logo on your chest. And again,
listen,
Arizona State.
And you got to give Mississippi State credit. They played better the first half of the game and played better in the game. Whether it was coaching, players, you can make the argument that it was both. Kenny's preached against the complacency. He said it came out famously before the season started. Anytime that ASU historically has been ranked in the preseason top 15, it's not worked out great. And he kind of warned them, but you can't take away anything from Mississippi State in this win. And listen, if you're Arizona State, everything, you're gonna hear this about after every upset loss. Everything they got is still everything they're shooting for is still in front of them. This was not a Big 12 game. They take care of business in the Big 12. They're one of the top 2 teams in the Big 12, meaning they go to the championship game. They're probably going to end up in the college football playoff. And he seems like the guy that will get this corrected. And I don't think you'll see them do something like this. I thought it was a bad call on defense. And they did motion the guy out. I think if you go back and look at it, they recognized they got the man coverage when they motioned that guy, and the guy traveled with him. And as you said, they brought the safety back down. And but yeah, listen, I guess that's going to happen every time you're going to get pencil whipped every now and then. And for Kenny and those guys, it cost them a game, and for Jeff and his guys, it got him a win that he very, very much needed, and will probably give that team some confidence, and should give that team some confidence and belief in what that staff is trying to do there, because they had a very, very rough year last year. Actually, there's a great video of what he says of that team after Ole Miss last year, and it kind of came to fruition against Arizona State on Saturday night. But yeah,
a lot of guys on that staff that we both know. Corey Bell coaching their secondary, Joey Connors with their special teams, Cliff Odom special teams, Phil Lodeholt, Ryan McKim. It's crazy. Anthony Tucker, how many guys we know on that staff, and just happy for him. It was a miserable, miserable slog last year and a miserable offseason. So, happy when that kind of result, much like Florida State last week, when you get that bad taste out of your mouth. What a great weekend.
Yeah. Yeah. So great win for Mississippi State. Fun game to watch. Great atmosphere. That town was going crazy. Listen, I did watch a little bit of the NC. Well, I say a little bit. I watched more than a little bit of the NC State both versus Virginia game, because you had told me obviously that after watching Virginia, you thought they were better. To me, it's Florida State's next real game, so I wanted to pay attention to them. They are better on offense than I thought they would be. Now, neither team, NC State nor Virginia, played particularly well on defense. I have not looked at the total yardage stats, but again, this was a 35-31 game that easily could have been more high scoring than that. If you're a Florida State fan, Virginia will be the best offense this team has seen, at least maybe outside of Alabama. Did not look good the day they played Florida State on offense. We'll see, but this will be the best team out of the last 3 by far. Florida State will have seen outside of Alabama when you look at who they just played last week in Kent State. The little Morris kid at quarterback, he's a player. They've got a really good running back that transferred out of NC Central, that he can take it to the house. I don't know if they're that bad on defense or NC State's that good on offense. Could be a little bit of both.
There are a lot of youth in the back end. They really hit the portal hard in the spring portal at Virginia and the back end, and that was their concern. And I didn't see the game, but it sounded like it played out that way. And then on the other side of the ball, NC State, the guy who made the play at the end of the game was one of those DNs I was telling you about from week 1, Sion. That was one of the 2 kids that showed up so big for them in the opener versus East Carolina. So again, good use of the portal by Dave and those guys. He makes a huge play for him to finish that win. But
yeah,
I do think certainly Virginia's better on offense. That's the best they've been in a couple of years on offense.
Yeah, they look much different on offense than really. They should have won that ball game. They had the ball inside the 15 3 times in a row to end the game. Missed field goal, chased a missed field goal with the 4th down attempt on the next possession, didn't make it, and then we're going in to try to win the ball game. They had to score a touchdown, and I believe it's Chandler Morris threw an interception, end zone, a great play by the defensive end you're talking about.
That's right.
He dropped which I'm sure Chandler Morris was not looking for the defensive end to drop in that situation. Great call by NC State to end that game the way they did. But and listen, NC State had to march back to get in that ball game. Looked like Virginia was going to go to town for a while, but interesting ball game. I was a little bit more impressed with NC State's quarterback than I was the week before. But listen, if you're Florida State, don't be sleeping on that Virginia offense because this is not going to be the same Virginia team that you've seen the last 3 years. And now what is Tony Elliott's 4th year in Charlottesville. So we'll have more of that, obviously, in 2 weeks. We'll see how Virginia continues to evolve as they move forward. Another item I want to talk to you about, Shane, and I thought this was very strange and been surprised by some of the people that gave it positive feedback. But Syracuse beat UConn in overtime, 27-20 at home on Saturday. And so I'm flipping through Twitter as I'm watching games, and all of a sudden I see a tweet where Syracuse is running sprints after the game in the stadium in front of fans. David Pollack says old school coach. Brett McMurphy backed it up on Twitter. I think this is one of the most self-aggrandizing things I've ever seen a college head coach do. This was all about Fran Brown. Look at me. I'm different. Look at me. Look what I'm doing to my kids. We going to be hard on these kids because we didn't win the way we wanted to win. I don't know if I say this and I'm 30 years removed from playing, I would have had a hard time not just keeping on going to the locker room as a player. Because that, to me, this is utterly ridiculous. I know the guy. I know you're a coach. You may have a different perspective on it. I thought it was silly. I thought it was embarrassing to those kids who just won a football game. And this is not high school. If Fran Brown wants to coach high school, there are plenty of jobs open. He needs to go get him one. He can run his Pop Warner team after that. But to me, this was all about Fran Brown. Look at me. I need an extra 30 minutes to 2 minutes of airtime on ESPN. I want people talking about me. That's all this was. It did not have anything to do with the game. Listen, I hear coaches all the time, whether it's you or Mike Norvell or Nick Saban or any guy that talks about football, that's coached football, talk about how hard a single football game is to win. And what Fran Brown did was to draw attention to himself, not the program. It puts a negative connotation on that win, in my opinion, and is a selfish move by a head coach that only wants people to look at him.
Yeah, I'm not going to disagree with the first part. I do think there's a look at me, part of that, no doubt. Don't know Fran, don't know what led up to it, all the what they're exactly running for, other than not playing well enough, or if there's more to it. But I can tell you this: you work so hard in college football for those 12 Saturdays. It's a practice sport more than any other sport that you see, as far as the number of game day opportunities compared to the number of practices. So you pour so much into it. I've been there. I called you one night. I think we won the American Conference Championship, and I called you on the way home, and I was pissed about the way our guys had played versus Memphis. We beat Mike that night. I remember you stopped me and like, "Hey man, you're an idiot.
Oh.
Shut up. You just won a game." So Fran had one of those moments. As a coach, you get so caught up in it, and sometimes you can't see the forest for the trees because you're so dialed in and obsessed with the process. But yeah, I don't like it. Celebrate those wins. You get very few. You won a game. This is Syracuse. I know he's trying to set a standard, but it's been a long time since they've been really good at Syracuse. So I'd find a way to go discipline those guys on Sunday or Monday. If I was a player, I'd fall in line just because it meant that much to me, and hopefully it does to those guys. And that's probably a good sign that they did get on the line and they did run. They didn't bark back. They didn't spit the bit. That might mean that he has a great relationship that allows him to push that team that way. So you could almost flip it the other way and say the fact that they responded the way they did, that maybe there are some strong relationships that nobody showed their ass in that moment outside of Fran, maybe. But yeah, don't like it. And then when you watch the video, Pat, they weren't really running that hard.
Right. So again, it's something that's being done for show, right? I mean, it's more.
Well, and to me, when you win or you lose, right? I mean, as a coach, I'm taking all the blame. When we lose, I'm taking all the blame. And when we win, the players get all the credit. And again, I think it just sets up a bad dynamic. And it's your job to get them ready to play. That's your job. So you get on the line and you run with them because you're part of that. It's a team thing. So
yeah. Listen, we'll see what comes of it. I'm sure it'll kind of disappear. I don't think we'll see him do it again. I think it was a one-off thing, but I do think it was. I think it was stupid, to be quite honest with you. And well, it's his team; he can do what he wants. But I thought it was stupid, and I thought it was hey, look at me, I'm Fran Brown. I'm different than everybody else, or I'm going to be different so that you look at me. And I don't think it had anything to do with punishment. I don't think it had. I think it was totally an attention getting thing. Because if you to your point, if you really wanted to run those kids, you put them on the line on Sunday. You put them on the stadium steps on Sunday, and you run them up and down for after you've graded the film. You know who was responsible for what.
That's right.
Yeah. So anyway, interesting happenings in Syracuse with Fran Brown. He was always got something interesting to say. This is just something interesting he did. But anyway, speaking of interesting things to say, Mike Gundy said several things over the course of last week heading into Oregon, including that he did not think his quarterback was going to be bothered by the crowd noise at Alston Stadium, and that maybe they shouldn't be playing Oregon because of the disparity in NIL money that they're spending. And I think that might have fired up Dan Lanning a little bit, which he used to fire up his team.
Gundy about the spending and stuff like that. And there was a lot about just pissing you off ahead of games. Did you and your team kind of have any extra motivation surrounding any of the stuff that was said earlier this week?
I told our team right before the game that, it never requires extra motivation for an opportunity to go out and kick ass, but it never hurts when somebody pours gasoline on the fire. So I felt like these guys wanted the chance to go prove who they are. And I'm sure I got a lot of respect for Coach Gundy, but at his press conference, he's probably saying, "See, I told you so." Right? Like that's probably what his comment is, but that doesn't change the way we have to play to be a winning football team. And we have good players, one of our best. I don't know, Bryce Betcher played good today. He came here for a backpack and a T-shirt. So I'm really proud of those guys on our team that, have developed into great players. Again, the guys that watched other people play last year are now playing for us. Like that's what makes this team great.
I think that Dan Lanning delivered a message on Saturday. It was 35-0 at the end of the first quarter. This game was over before it started. Listen, I think Dan handled this the right way. I think he used it. I think you got to use what you're given to motivate your football team, particularly when you're expected to win every game as they are, because of that huge budget that they're spending. And the only thing I want to know, only question I got for Dan is what was in that backpack they gave that kid.
McDonald's bag.
Yeah.
No, you're always looking for a way to motivate your team. This, go back to Tom Brady. You hear these great athletes talk about they'll take the most innocuous comment and turn it into a slander, right? That he meant this. No, he didn't. But as a competitor, I think you're always trying to, as a coach, try to get those guys on edge. Bama with Vandy a couple years ago, I think you're next. I heard Saban talking about you're next after Vandy beat someone a few years ago on their way into Bama, and he leaned on that heavy that week. You're always looking for it. So Dan is refreshing. He's probably like Kenny. He's pretty honest when he speaks.
Yep.
And doesn't necessarily give you coach speak all the time. So I always enjoy hearing his press conference. But they got a good team. I didn't see that game, but geez almighty, Pete, what has happened to Oklahoma State? That used to be a really quality program for years and years.
It was not, Shane. It was so uncompetitive. I had that on the second television because I wanted to see what happened, and it was ugly. Listen, couple other guys besides Napier and Gundy that had bad weeks. Brent Fry, they didn't look very good in the second half, particularly against Vandy and Deshaun Foster. They got handled pretty good by UNLV. So we got some guys who. I guess we'll say where they're sitting, the weather is warmer. We have now added, I've got our growing list of coaches whose seats are getting warmer. I have officially 5 on our list now. Now that just means they're getting warmer, not that they're going to go anywhere. Well, I've got Gundy, Fry, Deshaun Foster, Billy Napier, and Kalen DeBoer, who I think his seat will cool down as we move forward. But those are the guys that are having rough starts to the season. So we'll see how that transpires. But it was interesting.
I think if you're Virginia Tech and you come out there with that lead to start the second half, you're at home, you got the crowd behind you, you think, okay, we're 30 minutes. And then the way that Vandy proceeded to get in pistol, get under, pistol run game and just wore them out physically. And I'm telling you, again, first look at Vandy. Got a chance to watch some of that. Chris Klinakis, the offensive line coach there.
I saw him on the sideline.
He and Jerry Kill, and I've worked with both of them different places. But I'm just telling you, when you play Vandy this fall, you're going to be in a street fight. That's what you're going to. It's going to be a brawl, and you got Pavia Magic. So really good win for Vandy, a tough one for Brent. Yeah, hot seat there. I don't see Deshaun Foster getting out of there. It just the Nico thing doesn't seem to be going well, like we talked about 2 weeks ago. So.
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting for him because listen, their schedule is going to get harder at UCLA. Now, I think Brett's got a chance. He's got Old Dominion, Wofford next. So you figure they're 2-2 going in NC State. You're either 2-2 or 2-3 or 3-2 coming out of that game. Then you got Wake Forest, which is a very winnable game. So they could still be 500 going into Georgia Tech. Probably lose that game. Then you got Cal. Louisville was disappointing. That was my surprise team in the ACC. They looked awful against James Madison the other night. And then you got Florida State, Miami, and Virginia to close out the year. So I think he's got to get to 500 to keep his job in year 4 or 5 for Brent. So we'll see what happens there. But listen, every week gives us a chance to change our opinions. I used to write a column called Takeaway Tuesday for the Osceola because every week, every Saturday, it totally changed your perspective of the college, each team, the sport as a whole. But yeah, so bad week for Gundy, Pry, and Foster for sure, and Billy Napier. And at this rate, if SEC, we're going to do something Thursday or Wednesday or Thursday, whenever we do the next show. Who is the next SEC head coach to be on the chopping block? Meaning Napier's got Brian Kelly this weekend. At LSU, if LSU loses that game to Florida, they're going to be after LSU's coach. If Sam Pittman loses to loses to Ole Miss this weekend, they're going to be after him. So anyway,
the nice thing is it gives people like I guess you and I, because I guess I'm part of that now, something to talk about. And the great thing as a head coach is you don't worry about any of it because you're just so deep in your bunker. So it's again, as long as the kids on your team don't start hearing that. But as a coach, you don't even hear it. But as a fan, I guess, or as a sports talk podcast guy, it's a lot to banter about.
All right. Well, speaking of banter about, there's a lot of bantering between ESPN analysts this weekend. And I want to get your thoughts on what happened between Ryan Clark.
Wake up this morning. Are you feeling okay? You look at AJ Brown, which is this number 1 wide receiver who got 1 target all night, and then you got CeeDee Lamb. But that's the
when was the one target?
That's the target. But though. I'm saying
when was the one target?
I'm saying you could have it both ways.
54 seconds left in the game on 2nd and 11. It was the one target. He runs the out route.
You wake up this morning saying
AJ
Brown had a better day than CeeDee Lamb.
But you know what you wake up saying though? AJ Brown's team is 1-0.
Of course,
right? Like that's what
I get it.
But the thing is this though, and we shouldn't do this on TV, and so I apologize if people think this is rude. That's the non-player.
Oh, view. Stop! CeeDee Lamb is.
Let me tell you why. I'm not looking
at fantasy football, Ryan. I'm not. Don't belittle me like that. I could come in and say, as 3 ex-players are saying one thing, and give an alternative perspective that maybe CeeDee Lamb did play well. And
Peter, what I need for you to do is not get mad and let me finish for one.
Okay, go on.
It wasn't about you. It was going to be about me.
Okay.
All right, so this is interesting. Listen, I don't think you've got to necessarily play football or whatever sport you cover to be an expert. And Peter Schrager works really hard. I followed him on NFL Good Morning for years. It's kind of what I watch in the background when I'm working in the morning. When I have that, it's usually one of the shows I have on. Listen, I thought it was funny this morning. Pat McAfee kind of made light of it. When he introduced his guys on his show, he mentioned the toxic table, which is Boston Connor and Ty Schmidt. He usually, hey, this is the toxic table. This morning it was, hey, this is the non-pro athlete table. What do you make? I don't think there's a time. I think there's a time and place for that conversation. I don't think it's on camera.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, I guess there's a time and place for it. I don't think it holds a whole lot of water. I'll say this. We could probably go name several great coaches. I'll go Lou Holtz off the top of my head, who never played the game at a high level. Kenny Dillingham, who's had success. Okay, I could go on and on about guys who didn't play. And then I've coached / been around guys who were unbelievable players who had no football IQ. They knew their job. They had an unbelievable skill set. Did not make them qualified to be a coach because they played at a certain level. So I've seen it both ways. I think it's ignorant, lazy. I think it's lazy to say that and just to shut somebody down like that. But I'm sure Mina Kimes, right? I'm sure she takes a ton of shit because she's a female covering football, right? And you see that. But yeah, I don't buy it. I don't believe it.
Listen, if he knows anything about Peter Schrager's past, he certainly can't think that Peter's a guy that doesn't study the game. And if he'd ever watched Good Morning Football on the rival channel, NFL Network, they go against each other time slot wise. He would have known that. Now, listen, what was his view jaded by somebody else that maybe did not play football, that's a football expert, that doesn't study it the way maybe he should if that's what you're going to do for a living? Possibly, but I still don't think there's I think if you want to have those discussions internally as a company and what certain people are going to talk about, you do that before you get on the air. And listen, he's the same idiot that came out a day later and said that Peyton Manning and Tom Brady were not generational talents. You're talking about two of the greatest quarterbacks in the history of the game. So anyway, interesting. But
I think like there might be some. When I went to coach D-line, I played linebacker. So like most coaches, they don't necessarily coach the position they played. Many coaches don't. Are you telling me they can't go be an expert? Now, is there some theory to what I'm saying? Sure. I've never done it myself, but have I studied it to death? Have I spent countless hours watching the technique, learning technique with guys who have played it? So is there a point to where there's theory to it? Sure. I've never done it myself. Does that mean I can't coach it? Hell no. I can coach the hell out of it. And so again, I don't agree.
No. It's hard for me to believe that Peter Schrager's not watching all 20. They got access to all the tape. I would think all those guys that have access to that kind of stuff are taking advantage of it so they know what they're talking about and can talk about it in depth. I was talking to somebody the other day about how much more fun it is to watch a game in all 22 than it is a television copy, and how much you learn and can teach yourself as somebody that covers the sport. I think that they ought to give anybody that covers the sport access to all of that. I remember when I asked Florida, I had a catapult when I was working for the Osceola. I requested that they asked Florida State if we could get their access to their all 22 so I could be more knowledgeable about what was and was not happening. So, and these guys have it. So I think that Peter Schrager.
I understand why.
You understand
some
what?
of these companies have it, but I understand why guys don't want it out too.
Oh, I do too. I'm just saying
why guys don't want it out. They're film out.
Yeah. No, I understand why they don't want it out too. I was just saying, I think that, I think guys that have it use it right. And I think that if, for me, I would be able to help people understand what I'm trying to say better if I had it right. Confirm what I see and don't see. But I guess my point is Schrager has access to all that. I'm sure that part of what he does on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday is watch tape. So anyway, all right. Listen, we will be back later in the week. We'll let you know if it's Wednesday or Thursday. Hope to have some guests on. We'd like to get Jeff Woody back on the show for some Big 12 talk. But we appreciate you joining the Burnham Brothers College Football Podcast. And we want to thank Ascension Sports, Home Instead of Tallahassee, and the Dan Mowry Law Firm for their sponsorship. We'll see you later in the week. Have a great Monday night.